Welcome everyone to the presentation that Sister Julie Wilcox will be giving on 5-minute family history. That sounds really interesting. I'm excited to hear that. Julie Wilcox is a mother of 9 and has had 48 years of family history experience. She's been a consultant on the ward and stake level for over 13 years and currently serves at the Lehigh Family Search Center, where she teaches a dozen different family history classes. So Julie, thank you for being here, and we'll turn the time over to you.
So I wanted to start out with this photo. It's a painting by James Christensen. I love his artwork. It's very unique. It's called The Responsible Woman, and she's just loaded down with all of the different responsibilities that she has. He has also done a painting called The Burden of the Responsible Man. And I included it because it makes me think about all of the different things that we have to juggle on a daily basis. So think about this as we proceed with the class and how you can fit family history and temple work into an already very full schedule. I want to start with this little quote. Archibald Bennett was a genealogist in the 1950s. He was so well known that he earned the nickname of Mr. Genealogy. And in 1952, and keep in mind that year, there was an article printed in the Improvement Era that he wrote. And this is quoted from that article. He said, Sister Susie Young Gates once asked her father, Brigham Young, how it would ever be possible to accomplish the great amount of temple work that must be done. He told her that there would be many inventors of labor-saving devices so that our daily duties could be performed in a short time, leaving us more and more time for temple work. Then Brother Bennett said, the inventions have come and are still coming, but many simply divert the time gained to other channels and not for the purpose intended by the Lord. And I thought, at the time, the temple in Salt Lake wasn't even completed, and they had to travel long distances to go to, say, the Logan, Manti, or the St. George Temple. And I can imagine that his daughter would wonder, how on earth is all of this work ever going to get done? We are so blessed to have so many temples now. But in 1952, when he said, the inventions have come and are still coming, think about all of the inventions that have come in even just the last 20 years. We are so blessed but what do we do with the time that we've been given? In 2017, I attended Roots Tech Conference where at the time, Elder Russell M. Nelson and his wife, Wendy, spoke. It was just a few months, I think, before he was ordained the president of the church and prophet. But during that presentation, Sister Nelson said, we need to make time to find our ancestors' ordinance qualifying information. She said, my dear brothers and sisters, I entreat you to make a sacrifice of time to the Lord by increasing the time you spend doing temple and family history work, and then watch what happens. It's my testimony that when we show the Lord we are serious about helping our ancestors, the heavens will open and we will receive all that we need. And then President Nelson said, that means sacrificing time we normally spend on other activities. We need to be spending more time in the temple and in doing family history research, which includes indexing. I invite you prayerfully to consider what kind of sacrifice, and preferably a sacrifice of time, you can make to do more family history and temple work this year. So I confess at the time I used to be an occasional Candy Crush player. And nowadays, I after hearing them speak, I actually had it uninstalled on my computer. I took it off so I wouldn't even be tempted. And instead, if I have a few minutes of time, I'll do something that has to do with family history. So in this presentation, we're going to go over some ideas of things that you can do, even if you have only a few minutes of time. you'd be surprised at what you can accomplish in just 5 minutes or less. And hopefully you'll be able to work out so that you can add more than just a minute or two at a time. I see that we have a chat. Oh, we were talking about, okay, I'm going to go back. All right, so you might want to jot down some of these ideas. There is going to be a handout link to the class once it's posted online. All right. So we're going to look at my suggestions for some things that you can do. My first is to simply make a to-do list. Write it down. Written goals have a way of transforming wishes into wants, can'ts into cans, dreams into plans, and plans into reality. Don't just think it, ink it. And that was Michael Curtis said that. And I totally agree. I've been taught from the time I was in school that if you actually will write down your goals, you're much more likely to accomplish them. Family Search has even made it easy for us to keep track of a family history to-do list. So right on your home page, you will see near the tools an option to complete a to-do list, and you can write down things there. And then as you complete them, you can remove them from that list. So as we're going through the class today, if I show you some things that you haven't tried before, I hope that you'll actually make a note and jot them down and give them a try this week. So once you've made a list, when you have a few minutes of time, knock off one of those items. And sometimes we have to actually make that time, just like the Nelsons suggested. You know, just plan on setting aside a few minutes more than you have in the past. One thing that President Nelson mentioned was indexing. Indexing is vital. We know that only a fraction of the records that are available and even digitized have actually been indexed. With optical character recognition, I think we're going to see a lot more records being indexed more quickly through that process, but we still need volunteers to help to review records and to help with the indexing. We don't have as many projects available through Family Search as we used to, but if you'll look, you'll see there are still some projects available. And I'll show you a couple of other things that you can do that has to do with indexing these records. If you go to the Get Involved tab on Family Search, you will see that there's a link to indexing and to some other opportunities. You can also scroll down to the bottom of the page on a detail page or the home page and find where it has volunteer, and it has some opportunities there. But indexing is still available and we still need help with it. Another thing that you can do with indexing is to help with other websites such as Billion Graves. So to help index the data on Billion Graves, you do need to have the app or sign in and use your computer. Billion Graves is a website that individuals can take their smartphones to a cemetery, log into the app, take photos of the headstones, and it automatically captures the GPS coordinates for that grave. And you can go through the cemetery and take quite a few photos, upload them all, and then they still need to be transcribed. And there are lots of photos all the time available to be transcribed. And all you need to do is create a login and sign in and volunteer to help do that. This is what it looks like if you are going to transcribe or verify a record that has already been transcribed by someone else. That's just one opportunity. Occasionally, I will go to one of the Danish websites that I use frequently because they have records that need to be transcribed. So watch for opportunities to help make more indexed records available for us researchers. And that brings me to number 4. It's kind of tied into indexing, but not quite. And it's to help fix place names on Family Tree. So if you look down at the bottom of a detail page or your home page on Family Search, you'll see that link that says volunteer. And when you open it up, you'll see a variety of choices, ways that you can help out. And one of them I've circled is to improve family search place names. So if you haven't tried it, you'd be surprised at how many you can do in just a minute or two. So we should all understand that having standardized place names will actually help family tree searches to be more accurate. So there is a drive right now to really try and improve those place names so that they are standardized. And that will really help everyone. So when you click on that, it will take you to this information. And I recommend that you always start out with selecting a country you're familiar with. So if you're in the United States, you might want to check the United States. And that way you will get name places from the United States that might be easier to identify. Notice that it says review 10 places. So first you would select the country. If you don't select a country, it will give you an assortment, and you might get something from a country that you're not so familiar with. Once you've selected your country and review 10 places, it shows you one item at a time, and it will show you the way the place was written on the record on Family Search. And you click on select to standard place, and then it will give you like sometimes just one choice and sometimes more than one, but it'll give you an option to choose. Most of the time they're pretty easy. I remember one time I was doing this and someone had put 4 different counties in one state. Well, I have no way of knowing which one was the correct county for that event. If you have something that you don't know what the right or standard place is, you can just skip it. So you can see that skip up in the corner and then just go on to the next one. And like I said, you can do quite a few in just a minute or two, let alone 5 minutes of time. So let's look at some other things that you can do when you have just a few minutes at a time. I love memories on Family Tree. And I think we all have photos and documents just laying around our house, waiting for us to scan them and maybe add them to Family Search. My mother passed away in June, and I was surprised at how many things I found among her papers that, you know, photos and documents that we did not already have scanned and on Family Tree. And it was a little bit of a project to gradually scan those. So I would, when I had a few minutes of time in between everything else, just scan a few items, you know, on my printer, and then maybe another time upload all those items that I'd scanned onto Family Tree, and then go in another time and actually tag them to everybody. So that I was just doing little tiny blocks of time. And yeah, there were a couple of times where I spent like, you know, an hour just doing memories on Tree. But look and see what you've got or what a relative has that might be nice to add to Family Search, and maybe take a minute to scan them and add them to the tree. You can also add stories to Family Tree. And I think sometimes when we think of stories, we think of, you know, like a long, many-page document. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be just a paragraph or two. Just a memory that you have about a relative that isn't already on Family Tree. Doesn't have to take a long time. And it's always nice to have those memories preserved. Also with memories, you can add audio memories to Family Tree. We have had my mother living with us for 11 years. She was almost 95 when she passed away. We also have my father-in-law who lives with us, and he'll be 94 in March. And then when I've visited other elderly relatives, I have found that a great way to save their stories is to just use the phone app. So Family Search has a Memories app, and when you open the app, one of the options is to record an audio story. And you can get all the instructions on Family Search about how to use it, but it's super simple. And there were many times where I would take a few minutes with my mom before her dementia got too bad and just ask her a question and record that story. These are just a few of the titles for some of the stories we recorded for her, and try to keep them to about 5 minutes a time. People don't often want to sit down and listen to a 30-minute or longer message, but you'd be surprised about how precious those memories are to have in her own words. A few years ago, we were visiting my uncle in St. Louis, my dad's younger brother. And we went out to dinner with my aunt and my uncle. And while we were having dinner, he started to tell us this great story that I'd never heard before about my grandpa, his dad. And I said, oh, Uncle Dwayne, can I record this story? He was a little surprised, but he said, sure. I whipped out my phone, opened up the Memories app, and recorded this great story about our grandpa that I'd never heard before. And my uncle passed away less than 2 years after that event. So I'm really grateful that we were able to preserve that because I'd never heard it before. So if you haven't downloaded that Memories app, you might want to do that, and then just go visit some of the elderly relatives that you know, or record your own memories. Another thing that you can do that I think a lot of people aren't aware of is that you can add information to a memory, a photo that's already on Family Search. And it doesn't have to be a memory that you added. So I have a cousin that added this photo, and you might think that's not really exciting, but I was excited when I saw it. That's my grandpa and his camper, and he loved to go fishing. And when I think he tried to get every grandchild an opportunity to go fishing with him in the camper. And so it was a big special memory of mine when I had that turn to get to go with Grandpa and go fishing. We didn't catch any fish, but it was fun and a big treat to go in that camper. So I could record that memory here by just clicking on the microphone, or you can just write down a brief little, share what you know about that particular memory, and that doesn't take very long either. Another thing that I do with memories, in between things, when I have a few minutes of time on a regular basis, I'll check my memories gallery, and I will see if I have memories in there that are not tagged or don't have a title, and just take a few minutes to update some of those. Sometimes I will upload several news articles or pictures at a time, and I might miss one or two as I go back later to tag them. So I do check them kind of regularly, and that's something that you can do that takes just a couple minutes. A fun thing that you can do by yourself or with your family, this is a great thing to do for like a family home evening together, is just take a few minutes to get to know someone on your family tree. I really feel strongly that we need to not just be familiar with the names and dates on our tree, but get to know those relatives. Who were they? What were their lives like? So for this example, we're going to look at one of my husband's relatives, Eric Larson. He was the half-brother of my husband's great-great-grandmother. So Eric was born in Denmark and was an immigrant. And just pick somebody on your tree, go to the fan chart or the landscape view and pick somebody that you don't know much about, and then open them up. See if there are any memories linked to them, because those are always fun. There might be a story or a document or a photo. But if there aren't, look at the sources, because the sources can tell you a lot about the people on the tree. Open up a census, find out what their occupation was. How many people were in the family? Did they have children that died young? Were they pioneers? Did they immigrate? What's their story? And really get to know them. I've had an enjoyable time getting acquainted with Eric Larson and his wife. Years ago at BYU Library, I found a book in the social sciences department that was about, it was a history of the county where he was. I think, I want to say Emery County. I might be wrong, but it's in that area. And I was trying to find that same book online to see if it was online somewhere, like through Google Books or the Family Search books. And it wasn't, but while I was searching, I found these photos that are in the Brigham Young University digital collection. And there's Eric and his wife and some of their sons. So sometimes it's surprising what kind of fun things you might find that you can add to family tree. As we got acquainted with Eric and his family, I learned that one of his grandsons was named after him. So his grandson was named Eric Cleon Larson, and he didn't get married. No, he did. He got married, but he didn't have children. But when he grew up, he was on a farm in Emery County, and he liked to draw pictures of the animals on the farm and would give them funny personalities and names, and that art talent grew. And he eventually went to college and studied art, and then went to California, which I think is where he got married. And then he applied for a job with Walt Disney as an animator. And Eric Larson was one of Walt Disney's, what they call the original 9 old men. And he drew all of the animals that are in the Snow White movie, the first full-length animated features. So that was really fun fact. We even, because we found out that he had this role in the Disney movies, we Googled him, found out there's books about him. There's a lot of stuff like in Wikipedia. And a fun fact that we learned about this guy is that the year he died, 1988, the Disney studios were making the Little Mermaid movie. And when he died, they wanted to memorialize him. And so they named the prince in The Little Mermaid, Prince Eric, after him. So now you'll always think about him, my relative, my husband's, whenever you watch The Little Mermaid movie. And you have fun ancestors on your tree that you can get acquainted with too. One way to get acquainted with our ancestors is through this website. I love this. It's free. When you go to the website, it's at stories.familyfoundapp.com, and you sign in with your Family Search account. And what it does is gathers information from your family tree and creates a different kind of fan chart. So all those dots on the fan chart, the darker they are, indicate that there are more stories for those individuals. When you select somebody, so in this case, I've kind of hovered over Alva Alexander, and it tells me how I'm related to him, and it shows me what stories are connected to him. Also on that page, over on the left, you'll have a big column that says all the stories home, and it lists all the stories. It goes back, I think, 4 generations on your tree, on your fan chart. And it looks at anyone that has stories. So it's not just stories that you've added, but that anyone has added to the people on your tree. And it actually shows you about how long it would take to read that story. So I recommend that you go through, if you've never played with this website, and pick somebody that has a story that's just a minute or less. And when you click on that story, it will actually open up with the story right on that web page. So it doesn't take you away to Family Search where you have to open the story there. It shows you how you're related to that individual, and it gives you the opportunity to view that person on Family Search, so you can have all of that experience in getting to know that person. So you might write that on your to-do list if you've never played with all the stories. It's a great app and another good thing to do with your family. Kids love this. All right. Another thing that you can do in just a few minutes of time is attach record hints to Family Tree. Of course, we all know that you'll get record hints under Research Help. They have that little blue icon. Always look at them carefully and make sure they really are an accurate hint for that person. I have found that, especially with my Scandinavian ancestors, occasionally you will get record hints for them that are not truly that person. So always look and be careful. And I've had people that say, oh, well, I don't need to add that because I already have, you know, his marriage record, for example. But I recommend that you attach all of the good hints, even if you already have a source verifying whatever that vital record indicates. One way that you can find unattached record hints is through the recommended tasks that's on the homepage on Family Search, and also available through your smartphone on the Family Search app. So it looks a little different for both the Apple or the Android phone, but I'm showing both ways. It's under tasks, and you can sort the tasks. There's a couple of topics: all tasks, records, which would be those record hints, or temple, and you will find those with temple ordinances that way. So sometimes, you know, like if I'm waiting, you know, before a meeting or in my car, I might open up my phone and just start attaching record hints. You'd be surprised how many you can link up in just 5 minutes of time. Another good way to find individuals that have record hints is with Pazilla. Now, I taught a class last week on using Pazilla. This is with the premium version of Pazilla, which is available at Family History Centers. But with the premium version, you can ask Pazilla to look at a descendants wheel. So you find an ancestor, ask to look for the descendants of that ancestor, and then you can ask it to find anyone that has a record hint. And it will go through the wheel and add a little orange square to anyone that has a record hint. So it's pretty easy to find those that have record hints. And this is something that I do every week, probably several times. I'll go through a different ancestor wheel and start just attaching record hints. It's something that I can do when I'm not, you know, involved in a heavy research project or another thing, you know, and I can even multitask when I do that. Another thing that you can watch for on your tree are those data problems. Most of the data problems on Family Tree are simply places and dates that are not standardized, and pretty easy to fix. You can see that little red square with the exclamation point on the descendancy view of the tree or the landscape view or on an individual's detail page. And when you find those, just take a minute to take care of them. Like I said, most of them are just missing standardized places. This is showing the descendancy view on Family Search and how you can find those data problems. And just take a moment to fix them. It really does make a difference if the places are all standardized. You will get better results when you do searches. Another thing that you'll find with data problems is possible duplicates, and we really want to resolve those as well. Everyone has possible duplicates on your tree. Sometimes they show up as a research problem, and most of the time they're pretty easy to resolve. If you find one that you're not sure about, don't merge it. Just do a little more research or have somebody look at it with you. But most of them are pretty easy to take care of. Just like record hints, you have to be careful and make sure it really is a duplicate for that person. And Pazilla will also look for individuals that have possible duplicates on the premium version. So again, it's that premium version available at Family History Centers. But it's the quickest, easiest way I know to find those possible duplicates on the tree, and then I can resolve them. So in this example, all of the little icons that have that blue square linked to them, kind of supposed to be a purple square, I guess, has a possible duplicate. So this is just one of my ancestors' descendants. So you can imagine what the potential is to find those and take care of them. I think it's kind of a never-ending project that we all need to work on. Okay. Another thing that I do on a regular basis that only takes a couple of minutes is regularly review the weekly changes on my follow list. So just today, I got a little message that Family Search had posted changes to people that I follow. You need to open up that bell, which is your notifications icon, and see what those changes are. And the reason for that is so you can find out if someone's added something exciting or maybe made a change that you're not comfortable with. So be sure and look at those changes. So you can see in this example that we have a variety of changes that have taken place. Memories were added, sources were added, and so forth. If you've had someone do a merge, that will show up. So any changes to the people you're following will show up on there. You need to actually be following them. So I recommend that you follow all of the key people, your direct line ancestors. And I have more that I'm following besides just my own direct ancestors. But I do like to know if someone's making a change to them so that I can find out, what's new, or be notified if someone, like I said, makes a change that I'm not comfortable with. Another thing that you can do that doesn't take very long at all is find a name to take to the temple and reserve that name. Again, I'm showing a Pazilla wheel. One of the premium services is that Pazilla will look for names that need to have ordinances completed. You can also find those icons on the family tree descendancy view or the landscape view. When you see those green temple icons, that means ordinances can be reserved. It's green even if that person was born within 110 years, so just be aware of that. And it will be green even if there's that little clock icon on it. The clock means that someone reserved that ordinance, but then shared it with the temple. And I love that anyone, anywhere can pick up those shared ordinances. And if someone is picking up ordinances through Ordinances Ready, it will go through relatives first. So I'm getting temple ordinances that I've shared done every week from all kinds of different places. And it's exciting when that happens because I have more than I can handle to complete just by myself. When you pick up one that was shared by someone else through the temple system, you have a limited time to complete it. Now Family Search just expanded that time, so you have 120 days instead of 90 days, and that should be plenty of time to pick that up. If you pick one up and you don't get it done within that allotted time, then it just goes back to the temple system. So just be aware that that's what that clock means. It's you can only have it for a limited time. But isn't it always kind of exciting when you're looking for names to take to the temple and you do find one that needs to be done, and then you get that satisfaction of helping our relatives on the other side of the veil. Okay, a couple more ideas. I like to look at Google and look at the places where my ancestors lived, or photos of maybe the church that they had their marriage or where they're buried. This is Niels Peter Thompson, who's my third great grandfather. And it shows that he was born in Ugilt, Joring, and this is the and then died in Budolfi. And this is the church in Budolfi. And you can just use Google Images to search for places, or go right to Google Maps and look at the place where your ancestor lived. This is just an example. Alexander Patillo is on our family tree. He was born in, I'm going to forget the year he was born, but that doesn't matter. He died in 1922, and I found him in this city directory. It's a 1925 directory, but it has the death date for him, which was kind of interesting and a fun find. But the city directory has his home address, the family's address, and his children's address. You can see several of them living at the same addresses there, 6 Hancock and 79 Prospect, and this is in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And there was an advertisement for his store. He was had a mercantile store, and it has the address for that store. So I decided to just go to Google Maps and see what's still at that address. I didn't expect when it's from that long ago that I'd really find those buildings still existing. But I was excited because both homes and the store are still there. And when you go to Google Maps, you can grab the little guy and drop it on the street level and see him. You can see in the photo on the left, that's the Patillo store. And below that middle window, the top center window, you can see the Patillo name. That was really fun. And then in the photo on the right, there's a little plaque. And when I zoomed in, it says Alex Patillo Merchant, 1858. So it was pretty exciting to see that his home was still there and has that historical plaque on it, and the store. So if I ever get to Massachusetts, I'm definitely going to go and see those buildings in person. This is just showing how when you go to Google Maps and if you don't have an exact address, you can just put in the community, the town, or the city. In this case, I just put Ugilt in Denmark. And you can see it shows an image right from the beginning, but you can grab that little guy and drop him down on the street level and see what it looks like today. And it's really not that much different than it was probably at the time that my ancestor was living there. So if you haven't tried that and played around with Google Images and Google Maps, you might want to try it. It's really a lot of fun. During COVID, I did my dad's war history. And in doing the book about his history, I wanted some more images. And I Googled images for the fort that he was one of the many places where he trained. And Fort Hood, when I put that in, it came up with lots of images that had nothing to do with the time that he was here. So if you're looking at a specific time, be sure and put in that date. So when I put in 1942, I got a different set of images that was more pertinent to the project that I was doing. So another idea is to spend a few minutes posting a family history thing on Facebook. With the new version on Family Search, you can actually join the social media on Family Search and post things there as well. But this is showing Facebook. So during COVID, we found out that my father-in-law is in the picture on the left. He's the one in the wheelchair, and he's holding a baby. And we found out that his granddaughter that lives in Idaho was going to come down and visit so that he could see his first great-great-grandchild. And he held that baby, and it was pretty exciting. And it generated some interesting comments from family members. The one on the right is my father-in-law's dad. That's when he served his mission in the Samoan Islands. And we had some black and white photos. You can see the black and white photos over on the right. And I colorized them and then posted them. And that also generated a lot of fun comments. So he was on a mission there in the Samoan Islands. And one day he dressed in the, well, I think there was more than one time. He dressed in the local, I was going to say costume, but their attire. And it was fun to have those photos, and the colorized versions are great. So speaking of colorizing photos, if you haven't tried it, myheritage.com and now Ancestry will colorize photos, and it doesn't cost anything additional. So I have this great technology, and it's super easy. I use MyHeritage because that's the one I'm familiar with. They've had it a little longer. But you can see, these are photos of my dad, and look at the difference between the black and white and the colorized photo. Isn't that fun? Very simple, very easy to use. So if you have a few minutes of time, take some of your black and white photos and try colorizing them. You can also enhance the photos, and you can even animate photos. That to me is a little weird. I've tried a couple, but I really love the colorized ones and that ability to enhance photos that might need that. So try that out if you can. And speaking of photos, Family Search has made it possible for us to make any photos that we've added onto Family Tree of living people, we can make them private. The reason you want to do this is because even though others cannot see the data about a living person that you put on the tree, there's a potential that they could search and find memories, because you can search the whole entire collection of memories. And someone could put in, say, the name of this is my daughter, Joanna, could put in her name and potentially search that, and she would like it to be private. So I've gone through and made all of the photos of living people that I've put on Family Search private. So I want to clarify that I do not have a lot of photos of living people there. I use Google Photos for my living people. I have just a few there that's really just for me, because I know, like when I'm gone, nobody's going to see those photos, and the family has copies of them. So it's really just for me. So notice some of the photos have a little lock on them. Those are photos that I've made private. So I'm the only one that can see them. To make a photo private, all you have to do is click on the word public that's in the upper right corner, and then you can make it private. That's only available for photos that you add to Family Search. So you can do that with anything that you add. You can make it private if you want to. So you just click on that, and then a little box will pop up. Select the private option, and then you'll get a little message that lets you know, okay, if you do this, it's going to be made private and nobody else is going to see it. But you can opt out of getting that message every time if you want to. And then they'll all be made private. And I like that option. All right, another thing that you can do with a few minutes of time is try some new tools. New things are being made all the time that can help us with our family history research and help us to get to know the people on our tree. I love the BYU Family History Technology Lab. They have so many different things that can help with research and charts, as well as some fun games. So this particular one is called Pedigree Pie. And I remember when it first came out, they used to call it Grandma's Pie. But I think this is the technology that was first developed at BYU and that Family Search uses for the fan chart, and all the different ways that we can view the fan chart. And it was first developed at BYU. You can also go to the Solutions Gallery on Family Search. It's found way down at the bottom of the page, or in the, if you find it in the map. The Solutions Gallery has a big list of different websites and apps that you can use that have to do with family history that Family Search has approved. It will let you know if the item is free, has a one-time payment, or requires a subscription. You can sort them a variety of different ways, but sometimes it's fun to just go see what's new, because new things are being added there all the time. And you might not be aware of something that would be really helpful for you, or just fun. One of the things that the BYU Family History Technology Lab developed is called Relative Finder, and I think most of us are familiar with it. It's just a lot of fun, and it's wonderful that these are all free through the BYU Technology Lab. All of the big family history centers have, if they have a discovery area, includes Relative Finder on those big screens. And what it does is it will connect your tree to famous people. And so you can see if you're related to famous people. And over the years, they've added new categories. So there are a lot of different fun categories that you can see. Are you related to, for example, here I'm showing signers of the Declaration of Independence. And it's fun to see if you're related to famous, movie stars. But I use Relative Finder as a tool. One of the things that you can do if you go to the Connect tab, you can actually choose to connect you with any other deceased person on Family Tree to see how or if you're related. Or you can take two deceased people, like I'm showing here, and see how they are related. So we have that peculiar, Patillo family surname. And occasionally I will find someone on Family Tree, and I'm not exactly sure how they're connected to a different Patillo person. And I will use this to see how they're related. So here's just an example. I have a John Patillo and a John Thomas Patillo, wanted to see how they're related. And it shows me that they're fifth cousins once removed, and it shows me who the common ancestor is. I can even look at a chart like this to see how they're related. So if you're not aware that Relative Finder has that potential, you might be able to use it with your own research on occasion. Another thing that I suggest you do that doesn't take very long is select one of those special heirlooms or handed down antiques that you have at your home and write down a note to be saved with that item. And with my mother's passing in June, we found several things that were really wonderful items that we assume belonged to one of her, grandparents or somebody, but there were no notes or nothing to indicate who they belonged to. There's a beautiful hand patchwork quilt that it's like never been used and all wrapped up in plastic, and we have no idea who made it, none at all. So I've gone through some of the special things that I have and put a little note with it so that if something happened to me, my children coming along or grandchildren will know why that was special and who it belonged to, so that it can be preserved and that history of that item can be preserved. And that only takes a few minutes of time, but is a very important thing to do. Another thing that you can do with a few minutes of time by yourself or with a family member is try one of the discovery activities on Family Search. On the drop-down menu that we have an activities tab, there are a lot of options. But if you select all activities at the top, you will see even more. So one that we have found that is fun and only takes a minute or two is called Ancestor Challenge. So if you've never tried it, write that down as something you want to try. Ancestor Challenge will take 10 photos from people on your family tree, and you have to identify who they are. It gives you multiple choice. You have 4 different names to choose from, and then you can see how well you do, how many you can name of those ancestors. It's fun to do with someone else or on your own. So try that if you haven't tried it. So speaking of games, the BYU Technology Lab has developed a couple of games that we use a lot. So we really love the Jeopardy game and the Wheel of Family Fortune. These connect with your Family Search account. So when you first pull them up, it will ask you to sign in with Family Search. And then it uses the data from your tree to create questions for the Jeopardy game or names for the Wheel of Family Fortune game that are all from your tree. So these are fun to do with a family group or by yourself. We had my daughter and her children living with us for about 6 years. And my little grandson learned that we didn't allow video games on Sunday. But he knew he could come and ask me if he could play a family history game, and that was acceptable. So he would play quite a few different family history games. The Wheel of Fortune one is very easy. The Jeopardy game actually takes questions from that have to do with people on your family tree like this. And again, you get multiple choice. If you choose the correct answer, it will tell you that it's correct. If not, then you can try again for like half points. So it's something you can do by yourself or with someone else. We've done these games at like large gatherings like 90th birthday celebration or family reunions, or just sometimes on a Sunday afternoon when the family comes to visit. And it's a lot of fun. And it will help the family get to know the people on their tree a lot better. Another connection with the games through the BYU Technology Lab is called Ancestor Games. So this is just a little different from those two games that I showed you. And I think the handout might have the old web link, which is fhtl.byu.edu. So familytech.byu.edu is the new link, and it's so I don't know how long we'll be able to use the old one, but you can find the Ancestor Games even if you just Google it, or Google the BYU Family History Technology Lab. The Ancestor Games has right now 6 different options. The puzzle is the newest option, where it takes a photo from your family tree and creates a puzzle, and you can do simple or more complicated ones. We probably do the matching game the most, but a couple of years ago when my daughter got married, she used the photo one and had a photo of her and her new husband and their dog turned into a coloring page that she had at the little reception, so that kids could color those pages if they wanted to. They also created a crossword puzzle with questions about them, so that was fun. All of these take the information from your family tree and create a fun game. My grandkids especially like the matching game. It's pretty simple. You can do by yourself or on, with other players. And it again just uses pictures from your family tree that you can match. My grandson particularly liked this game through, again, it's BYU Family History Technology Labs, and it's called Record Quest. He liked it because it was a little more challenging. You have a little avatar that you have to take through a challenge. And I think this is like a one-person one, I think, or maybe 2. But it's a interactive, fun way to teach family about family history. In the game, the little guy gets a mysterious letter that's all about maybe if they can prove that they're related to this guy, they might be able to inherit some money. So the little avatar has to go through several different challenges to find information. He goes to grandma's attic and has to fight off the spiders. He goes to the cemetery. He goes to the library. I think in the library, he gets sucked into a computer. So there's a lot of fun things, but it teaches them about finding records. So it's a fun game. Okay, another thing that you can do, we have just a couple more, is to see what's new on the Family Search blog. So a lot of people that I talk to don't even know that Family Search has a blog. So if you've never looked at it, it's easy to find. It's down at the bottom of a person's detail page or the home page where it says blog. And when you open it up, it has whatever was the most recent post, but it also has a list of all the different categories. So if you wanted to find articles in the blog about what's new on Family Search, or maybe about photos and stories or some other topic, you can go right to it and see what things have been posted that have to do with that topic. And again, that's something that you can do when you have just a few minutes of time, and it will help to educate you more about what's going on Family Search. And you can watch a Family Search video on the church website or YouTube, Ancestry.com, BYU webinars, Family Search, lots of different places. If you only have a few minutes of time, there are some that only take like 5 minutes or less to watch. The learning centers have lots of great videos as well. This is showing the church website where you can, if you go to the media library and go direct to family history, you will find some great videos. This is one of my favorites. If you haven't seen this one, look it up. It's called Redeeming the Dead Redeemed Me, and it takes just under 5 minutes to watch. But YouTube has a huge collection, thousands of videos that have to do with family history, and you can easily and quickly see how long it would take you to watch that video. I will often watch family history videos while I'm multitasking. You know, if I'm cutting out cookies or chopping vegetables, I'll have my computer up and with a little video that I can watch while I'm doing that. So one more idea is that I frequently check my own contributions on Family Search because I'm kind of compete with myself. I want to see how I'm doing. Am I doing better than I did last year? And sometimes within our family, we like to compete a little bit as well. So my contributions can be found on your phone app as well as on Family Search. And it's part of the Family Tree drop-down menu. When you click on it on the website, it will open up to this page. So the default will show your changes, any changes that you have made to Family Tree. And sometimes that's really helpful. If you were working on somebody and can't find them maybe on your recents, you can go down and see them in your change log. But if you want to check your statistics, then click on that far left link that says stats, and it will give you a wonderful graph of your own contributions on Family Tree so that you can compare and see how you've been doing over the years. Don't let this upset you. If you're brand new to Family Search, then you have like a great goal. You can now always do better. But it's fun for me to see what my contributions are. When you're on this page, notice the tabs in the far left upper corner. It says Sources, Memories, and People. If you click on any of those, it will sort these contributions so you can see how they compare. So you can look at just sources or just memories or new people that you've created. Be aware that if you add a source and link it to 5 different people, maybe there's a census record and it has several people in the family, it will count as 5 sources on this contributions. Same thing with memories. If you add a photo that has 3 people in it, it will count as 3 separate memories because you've linked it to 3 different people. So those numbers can add up kind of quickly, depending on how much work you're doing on Family Tree. But it's fun to check those on an occasional basis. I also like to look at the private people. So one of the options when you're looking at your contributions is private people. And it's a list of anybody that you added to Family Search that is shown as living. And I like to go through those and see if I can update that. Is there somebody that was born long enough ago that I'm hoping maybe I can find a death record for them or update the information on there. It only takes a few minutes of time to do just a little bit of research to check those out on an occasional basis. Well, that's a lot of different ideas that I've shared with you in an hour. The important thing is to just do something. Whatever time you spend doing a family history activity, whether you're doing hard research or just enjoying a fun activity, you will receive blessings from doing that. You will feel the spirit of your ancestors in your life, and your time will have been worthwhile. This is a quote by President Boyd K. Packer. He said, "Family history has the power to do something for the dead. It has an equal power to do something to the living. Family history work has a refining, spiritualizing, tempering influence on those who are engaged in it." So I think no matter what we do, we receive blessings from it. And I love this. This is my final quote. It's from President Joseph Fielding Smith, and he said this back in 1995 when computers were just starting to become, into everybody's homes. He said, "It doesn't matter whether your computer is able to compile all the family group sheets for everyone that ever lived on the earth. It remains the responsibility of each individual to know his kindred dead. Even if the work is done, it is still each person's responsibility to study and become acquainted with his ancestors." And I think some of the things that I've shown you today can help you to accomplish that, to get to know your ancestors and become better acquainted with them and feel their spirit in your life and the blessings that you'll receive from doing that. So remember President Nelson's request that we be willing to sacrifice just a little more time doing family history and temple work. Ask for help to find and use your time more wisely and have some fun while you're doing it. And your life will be blessed as you do. So think about it. Where are you going to find just a little more time in your weekly life to include more temple and family history work?